Beyond the blinding flashbulbs and manufactured glamour, a different kind of Hollywood story unfolds, one starring the children of true screen legends. They were thrust into the public eye from birth, yet they're forging their own paths. While some were gifted their parents' raw talent and others their striking looks, every single one of them bears a surname that commands attention for better or for worse. But what happens when the red carpet is rolled up and the cameras stop flashing? Who are these individuals, really? From whispered scandals to breathtaking reinventions, these famous offspring are doing far more than just coasting on their family's success. They are tearing up the old playbook and writing their own rules. So are you ready to get acquainted? Let's start with Ireland Baldwin. A woman defined by defiant beauty, unapologetic boldness, and a last name that echoes through Hollywood history. Her lineage is pure Hollywood aristocracy. She's the daughter of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, a power couple whose on-screen magnetism was matched only by their off-screen drama and controversy. Yet Ireland Baldwin refuses to be defined simply as a gossip column footnote or the bearer of a famous name. She is carving out her own space in the world without waiting for anyone's approval, and standing at an impressive and unforgettable 6 feet 2 inches, she is a force that's impossible to ignore. However, her commanding stature is only part of what makes people stop and stare. It's the fierce, untamed confidence that she exudes in every photo shoot, at every public event, and in every single captured moment of her life. In an industry where most celebrity offspring carefully navigate the long shadows cast by their parents' achievements, Ireland strides directly into the brightest spotlight she can find and challenges it to keep up. Back in 2016, she caused a sensation with a provocative video from a windswept beach where she was seen posing alone in a bikini before bravely casting it aside. With only the sky watching, she posed in a display that was daring, intensely sensual, and completely on her own terms. A clear declaration that this particular Baldwin has no interest in playing it safe. Beneath that glamorous exterior lies a young woman who courageously faces both adoration and harsh judgment head-on. She has been remarkably candid about her battles with body image issues, her journey with mental health, and the heavy toll that a life in the public eye can take. In a culture obsessed with digital filters and curated perfection, her sharp wit and raw honesty are a breath of fresh air, proving that Ireland is so much more than just a model. She is a living testament, a powerful reminder that inheriting fame doesn't mean you have to be imprisoned by it. She is determined to shatter preconceived notions, upend expectations, and perhaps, just perhaps, completely redefine the meaning of carrying on a legendary family name. Next, consider Alison Williams, the brilliant Ivy League graduate who made Hollywood sit up and take notice. It would have been easy for her to be just another beautiful starlet with a well-known father, but Alison Williams had no intention of taking the easy road. She arrived with a mission to create a career that was truly unforgettable. As the daughter of the celebrated news anchor Brian Williams, Alison's childhood was a constant whirlwind of breaking news headlines and television cameras. However, just when everyone assumed she would follow in her father's meticulously polished footsteps into journalism, she veered dramatically into the chaotic and unpredictable universe of acting. She dove headfirst into the notoriously difficult world of performance art, and against the odds, she flourished. With the polished grace of a debutante and the fierce determination of someone with everything to prove, this Yale graduate first captured public attention, playing Marnie on HBO's hit series Girls. It was a role that unflinchingly explored the complicated mess, the hidden beauty, and the profound desperation that comes with navigating your youth and searching for your place in the world. The portrayal wasn't always flattering, but that was precisely the point. She refused to shy away from raw, uncomfortable emotions. Instead, she embraced them completely. And then her role in Get Out arrived, and the entire game changed for her. By portraying the terrifyingly manipulative Rose Armitage, Alison completely demolished any pre-existing girl next door image. Her performance was a stunning masterclass in duality, utterly charming on the surface, with a deeply sinister core hiding just beneath. It was the kind of performance that left audiences breathless and forced critics to pay serious attention. But her captivating presence isn't limited to the screen. She's equally compelling when the cameras stop rolling. Alison is known for being incredibly intelligent, possessing a razor-sharp wit and being driven by an unapologetic ambition. She's an artist who doesn't just rely on her family name, she actively transcends it. And speaking of unforgettable moments, we have to talk about her wedding. Her wedding to tech entrepreneur Ricky Van Veen was more than just a Hollywood fairy tale. It was an event officiated by the one and only Tom Hanks. It's the kind of surreal detail that could only happen in her orbit, having America's dad pronounce them husband and wife. Clearly, Alison Williams is not interested in following anyone else's path. She's charting her own unique course and the world is captivated. This brings us to Rashida Jones, a woman born from legends who is meticulously carving out a legacy of her own. It is exceptionally rare to encounter someone who seems to have been born with show business literally running through their veins. Rashida Jones is the offspring of two cultural titans, music industry mogul Quincy Jones and beloved television icon Peggy Lipton. Together, her parents helped to shape the cultural landscape of an entire generation. Yet Rashida is forging a path that is uniquely hers. Many recognise her as Ann Perkins, the lovable and incredibly smart nurse from the celebrated sitcom Parks and Recreation. Or perhaps you recall her quick-witted and charming presence from her role on The Office. The truth, however, is that her own life story is far more complex than any character she has portrayed. Raised at the crossroads of two distinct worlds, the glitz of Hollywood and the soulful rhythm of Motown, Rashida became fluent in the language of fame from an early age. Her childhood home was a place where Michael Jackson was a regular visitor, a space that vibrated with the sounds of jazz, the passion of activism, and an undercurrent of quiet strength. Despite this incredibly privileged upbringing, she never simply coasted in the warmth of her parents' spotlight. Instead, she was driven to ignite her own. She's a Harvard graduate who majored in religion and philosophy, and at one point she even contemplated a career in law before the irresistible pull of storytelling drew her back to the creative world. Her creative passions extended far beyond acting. She delved deeply into writing, producing, and even directing. She was the creative force behind the eye-opening documentary Hot Girls Wanted and has penned scripts for the acclaimed series Black Mirror. Without a lot of fanfare, she has powerfully and steadily emerged as one of the most multi-talented and versatile creators working in entertainment today. And through it all, she has never allowed the overwhelming nature of fame to consume her identity or her work. Rashida has consistently kept her feet firmly on the ground, prioritising projects with substance over the temptations of blockbuster fame and choosing meaning over fleeting media buzz. She has been incredibly vocal about the complexities of identity, the importance of representation, and the delicate tightrope walk of navigating a world that often pressures you to be black enough or white enough. But the truth she has embraced is simple. She is unapologetically Rashida, and that identity is complete and powerful all on its own. While she may be the product of two legendary stars, Rashida Jones has charted her own course, forming a unique constellation in the Hollywood sky, one defined by its brilliance, its intentionality, and its undeniable originality. Next, we have Zelda Williams, the child of a comedy titan on a poignant journey to discover her own unique voice. Living your life under the enormous shadow cast by a cultural icon is an immense challenge. That challenge becomes monumental when the legend in question is none other than the incomparable Robin Williams. The comedic genius who taught a generation how to laugh, weep, and hold onto a sense of wonder created a legacy that felt impossibly vast and profoundly personal to millions. Yet for Zelda Williams, he was just Dad. She was named for a princess from a beloved video game and brought up in a household where fantastical creativity was the norm and affection was always expressed at full volume. From an early age, Zelda intimately understood both the brilliant glow and the crushing burden of celebrity. Her father was undeniably a comedic genius, but he was also a soul who experienced the world with an intense emotional depth, a sensitivity that was both his gift and perhaps his greatest struggle. Following his tragic passing in 2014, a wave of global mourning swept the world. For Zelda, however, the loss was profoundly intimate and personal. She faced a private heartbreak that reverberated far beyond the sensational news headlines, and despite the immense pressure, she refused to retreat from the world. On the contrary, Zelda chose to step into the light, determined not to be a mere imitation of her father's legacy, but to forge a new path as an artist with her own distinct voice. As a talented actress, a budding director, and a skilled writer, she is carefully crafting a career in Hollywood that may be more subdued than her father's, but is every bit as significant and heartfelt. Her resume includes lending her voice to animated characters, taking on roles in independent cinema, and most impressively transitioning to work behind the lens, where she writes and directs projects known for their clever humour and unexpected emotional resonance. In 2016, she made a public appearance alongside her brother, taking part in the inauguration of the Robin Williams Centre in New York City. And while she offered a brave smile for the photographers, her expression conveyed a much more complex narrative. It was a story of enduring grief, incredible strength, and a profound love that continues to influence every single project she undertakes. Zelda has no intention of trying to fill her father's shoes. Instead, she pays tribute to his memory in the most authentic way she can by creating art that is honest and true, hoping to offer a sense of connection and make people feel less isolated in the world, which was his greatest gift. In a culture that often rewards the loudest voice in the room, Zelda Williams stands as a powerful testament to the enduring impact of quiet resilience and understated strength. And then there's Eva Amuri, the daughter of a Hollywood firebrand, who is meticulously nurturing her own distinct flame. Having Susan Sarandon as your mother and actress who completely reshaped the definitions of power, allure and unapologetic political activism in Hollywood means facing a lifetime of inevitable and often unfair comparisons. From the very beginning, however, Eva Amuri had absolutely no desire to live as a mere reflection of someone else. Her primary focus has always been on authoring her own unique story. While she was born into a world of incredible talent and seemed poised for stardom, the path to fame wasn't simply laid out for her. Let's be honest, it rarely is, despite appearances. Although she appeared alongside her famous mother in Dead Man Walking and Middle of Nowhere, Eva's professional and personal journey has been defined less by her family tree and more by the challenge of forging her own independent identity. Her striking beauty is impossible to ignore, a classic yet sharp look that is truly memorable. But beneath that stunning exterior lies a woman who has navigated personal tempests that most people could never comprehend. She has bravely and openly discussed her struggles with postpartum depression, the heartbreak of going through a divorce, and the crushing weight of expectations that often shadow the children of legendary figures. By sharing these experiences so candidly, she has accomplished something truly extraordinary. She has transformed her own vulnerability into her greatest strength. Moving beyond the confines of acting, Eva has evolved into a powerful chronicler of the contemporary female experience. With her popular blog, Happily Eva, after she provides an unfiltered look into the realities of her life, sharing all the messy, wonderful and completely honest moments. The trials of motherhood, the pain of a broken heart, the search for identity and the long road to healing, it's all laid bare for her audience with incredible rawness and authenticity. While she may possess the same inner fire as Susan Sarandon, Eva Amuri has channeled that energy in a completely new way, creating a flame that is slower, more deliberate, and shines with a quiet, radiant light. The industry probably anticipated that she would simply follow the well-trodden red carpet path, but instead she is blazing an entirely different kind of trail for herself. It's a path paved with honesty, bravery, and a steadfast commitment to being nothing other than her true self. Now we turn to Ronan Farrow, the investigative journalist who sent shockwaves across the globe. In a culture utterly consumed by the pursuit of celebrity, Ronan Farrow made a conscious decision to pursue something far more elusive and valuable, the truth. He was born to the iconic actress Mia Farrow and the controversial director Woody Allen. though persistent rumours have long suggested his biological father might actually be the legendary Frank Sinatra. From his first moments, his origins were shrouded in a cloud of mystery and speculation. Yet rather than allowing tabloid gossip to shape his narrative, Ronan forged his identity from a much more substantial foundation. That foundation was built on towering intellect and unwavering integrity. He became a Rhodes Scholar, earned a degree from Yale Law School, and even served as an advisor within the United States government. At an age when many of his peers born into fame were still learning to navigate the red carpet, Ronan was already deeply involved in shaping public policy and moving through the corridors of influence in Washington. However, the year 2017 marked the moment the entire world would finally hear his voice, and it emerged not as a whisper, but as a deafening roar. Through one single meticulously researched exposé, Ronan shattered the impenetrable wall of silence that had protected the powerful film producer Harvey Weinstein for decades. His investigative work earned him more than just a Pulitzer Prize. It sparked a worldwide movement of accountability. The Me Too movement transformed from a hushed murmur into a global outcry, and right at the epicenter of this cultural earthquake stood Ronan, composed and resolute. And it's crucial to understand that for him, this crusade was deeply personal. Having grown up circling the gravitational pull of immense power, Ronan understood firsthand the culture of enforced silence and the corrosive nature of complicity. The bravery he displayed wasn't merely that of a journalist, it was a generational act of defiance. He was a son actively rewriting a family saga that had long been defined by public scandal. He isn't one to chase the spotlight yet because of the gravity of his work. The spotlight inevitably finds him. With his intense blue eyes and an academic air that seems more suited for a university than a red carpet, Ronan presents a captivating enigma. Raised in the epicenter of artistry and fame, he forged a new path as a relentless pursuer of truth. Ronan Farrow did far more than just sidestep the massive shadow cast by his family name. He stepped directly into it, reshaped its power, and used that influence as a guiding light for others. Now let's consider Corinne Foxx, a rising star who is creating her own brilliant spotlight. When your father is the one and only Jamie Foxx, an Oscar-winning actor, a Grammy-decorated musician, and a world-class comedian, not to mention a powerhouse singer and an electrifying performer, you're practically born with showmanship in your veins and the entire world as your audience. But defining Corinne Foxx as simply Jamie's daughter is a profound misjudgment. She is a formidable new talent who is seizing the spotlight with her own unique style and unwavering confidence. From her earliest years, Corinne grasped the immense pressure of living a public life. She graced countless red carpets on her father's arm and was a dazzling yet understated presence at A-list functions, always displaying perfect poise and politeness. But she was never content to simply be the plus one. Behind the scenes, she was absorbing everything, learning the industry and patiently awaiting her moment. In 2016, she made her grand public debut as Miss Golden Globe, a prestigious honour traditionally bestowed upon the daughters of Hollywood's most celebrated figures. But Corinne did more than just hand out statuettes. She captured the room's attention with her stunning features, innate grace, and a smile brimming with confidence. She broadcasted her readiness to the world. Having trained at the University of Southern California and the esteemed Howard Fine Acting Studio, Corinne is much more than a recognizable name. She is a genuinely talented performer. She showcased her skills on the big screen in the thriller 47 Meters Down Uncaged, appeared on the game show Beat Shazam with her dad, and is meticulously building a professional resume that will undoubtedly speak for itself far beyond her famous last name. Her choice to use the surname Foxx over her birth name Bishop wasn't just a simple homage, it was a clear declaration. She is deeply proud of her roots and her family. But she is even more passionate about the future she is forging for herself, and she is never hesitant to use her voice for change, particularly as an advocate for mental health awareness and the empowerment of women. Corinne Foxx is a combination of pure elegance and fiery spirit, and she is 100% prepared for stardom. She might have been born into the spotlight, but she is working to make damn sure that light shines brightest on her own achievements. Now let's turn to Lorraine Nicholson, who brings a quiet grace from an icon of on-screen chaos. Jack Nicholson was never a figure associated with subtlety or softness. With that legendary devilish grin and a career built on redefining cinematic madness, he dominated Hollywood as an unpredictable and untamable force. So it came as a genuine surprise when his daughter, Lorraine Nicholson, emerged on the scene not with a storm of chaos, but with a remarkable sense of calm elegance and an almost disarming gentleness. Lorraine may not have inherited her father's famous volatile edge, but she most certainly received his powerful screen presence. There is an understated magnetism to her. It's in her thoughtful gaze, a deliberate pause, a unique way she commands a space that makes you want to pay closer attention. Upon first impression, you would likely never guess that she is the child of one of Hollywood's most iconic and famously wild actors. And perhaps that is entirely intentional. At just 26 years of age, Lorraine has successfully carved out her own niche in the world of acting and well beyond. She has appeared in motion pictures such as the inspirational Soul Surfer, where she portrayed the best friend of real-life shark attack survivor Bethany Hamilton, a performance that highlighted her talent for conveying deep emotion with incredible subtlety. Her work was understated but completely unforgettable. But Lorraine's creative ambitions extend far beyond what she does on camera. She has also stepped into the director's chair, writing and helming short films that investigate themes of identity, human connection, and the quiet, frequently ignored details of our shared experience. There is a palpable thoughtfulness in all of her creative work, a suggestion of something profoundly deep and insightful. In 2007, she was honoured as Miss Golden Globe, a designation often given to the heirs of Hollywood royalty. But Lorraine approached the role differently, seeing it not as a promise of future fame, but as a quiet acknowledgement of the legacy she was determined to reshape in her own image. She will probably never match the sheer volume of her father's cinematic persona, and that is precisely what makes her so compelling. Lorraine Nicholson is living proof that sometimes the most gentle voice in a room is the one that ultimately leaves the longest lasting echo. Georgia May Jagger, the spirit of rock and roll with a slash of red lipstick. When your father is the one and only Mick Jagger, the swaggering icon of the Rolling Stones, and your mother is the legendary supermodel Jerry Hall, you are born with more than just fame. You are born with an inherent attitude, a natural edge, and a type of magnetic charisma that can never be learned. And Georgia May Jagger wears these traits as effortlessly as her signature lipstick. She is bold, completely fearless, and utterly unforgettable. With her trademark gap-toothed smile and bombshell blonde hair, Georgia doesn't simply enter a room, she takes command of it. But don't you dare mistake her for just another pretty face on the fashion runway. She is one part high fashion model, one part rebellious spirit, and all-around style icon. And in the process, she is actively dismantling and rewriting the conventional rules of beauty. Georgia has been the face of massive campaigns for Chanel, H&M and Versace. Her image has been projected on billboards across the globe, filled the glossy pages of magazines and graced fashion's most exclusive runways. She is not a person who follows trends. She is a trailblazer who creates them. Her style is a little bit punk, a little bit glamorous, and always delightfully unpredictable, much like her famous father. Yet beneath that high fashion exterior lies a woman with incredible grit and substance. She has openly discussed her struggles to build confidence within an industry that is notoriously obsessed with an unattainable image of perfection. Instead of conforming, she committed even more deeply to her own authenticity. That famous gap in her smile ultimately became her calling card. Her firm refusal to correct it was a quiet but powerful act of defiance and served as an inspiring statement to young women everywhere. In 2012, she stood alongside British fashion legends Kate Moss and Naomi Campbell at the closing ceremony of the London Olympic Games. This was not just a major fashion moment, it was a culturally significant one. Georgia was standing on that world stage not merely as the daughter of a rock star, but instead as an icon for a new generation, one that celebrates what makes them different and isn't afraid to be bold, and marches unapologetically to its own beat. Georgia May Jagger is so much more than rock and roll nobility. She is the crown, the captivating chaos, and the incredible comeback. And mark my words, she is only just warming up. Dakota Johnson, a mix of sweet grace and razor-sharp edges. Dakota Johnson was quite literally born into the world of fame. As the daughter of Hollywood mainstays Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson, and the granddaughter of the iconic screen legend Tippi Hedren, she could have effortlessly glided through Hollywood on a shimmering cloud of vintage glamour. But Dakota was never content to just float. She was determined to carve her own path. With her flawless porcelain skin and an enigmatic smile, she projects an aura of calm that seems almost fragile. But don't be fooled. Beneath that softness lies a core of pure steel. It's precisely that quality which made her the perfect Anastasia Steele in 50 Shades of Grey. It was a role that shocked audiences, divided critics, and ultimately rocketed her to the heights of superstardom. She wasn't taking the safe route. She never does. Signing on for 50 Shades was a massive gamble that most Hollywood A-listers wouldn't have dared to consider. But Dakota didn't even flinch. She took on the role with a quiet boldness, transforming a wildly controversial franchise into a major cultural moment and turning herself into an emblem of modern female complexity. Inquisitive, conflicted, and completely in command. She has since made a point of choosing roles that completely defy typecasting. She was haunting in Suspiria, deeply poignant in The Lost Daughter, and remains strangely mesmerising, even in interviews where her wit cuts far sharper than you might expect. Just go ask Ellen. Off-screen Dakota is refreshingly private in a culture that is utterly addicted to oversharing. She almost never discusses her famous family, her personal relationships, or the nature of her fame. Instead, she allows her work to speak for itself, and it communicates with a distinct elegance, a raw honesty, and a subtle touch of rebellion. There's an unmistakable old Hollywood quality about her, a cool confidence reminiscent of Lauren Bacall. Yet at the same time, she is undeniably a figure of this exact moment. She doesn't clamour for attention. She doesn't beg for approval. She simply exists. And somehow that quiet authenticity is louder than any noise could ever be. Now let's talk about Eve Hewson, the quiet thunder from Dublin. When your father is Bono, the voice of U2, the global activist, the undisputed icon, it is incredibly difficult to walk into any room without his shadow following you. But Eve Hewson never wanted to live in that shadow. She arrived wanting to make a sound that was all her own, and she does it in a style that is quieter, more incisive, and far more captivating. Born Memphis Eve Sunny Day Hewson. Yes, that's her actual name. She was raised a world away from Hollywood in the moody, rhythmic heart of Dublin. Her childhood was a strange mix of global fame and normal family dinners, of life on tour buses and the routine of wearing school uniforms. But Eve wasn't interested in chasing stages. She was interested in chasing stories. At first glance, she is the very embodiment of delicate Irish charm. Pale skin, intense eyes, and a slight smile that hints she knows a secret you don't. And then she appears on screen and you instantly realise that she absolutely does. Her big breakthrough came in the series The Nick, where she portrayed nurse Lucy Elkins opposite the formidable Clive Owen. It certainly wasn't a glamorous character, but it was an incredibly complex one, and Eve peeled back every layer with stunning precision. Since then, she has solidified her reputation as the kind of actress who never begs for your attention, but always without fail earns it. Roles in Behind Her Eyes, Bad Sisters, and Flora and Son demonstrated her incredible ability to pivot between raw grit and effortless grace. Sometimes with nothing more than a single glance, she can bring profound depth to silence, a sense of danger to softness, and a sharp wit to every line she speaks. She has a magnetic quality that you don't fully notice until you find you cannot look away. But perhaps the thing that makes Eve so incredibly compelling is what she refuses to do. She never once flaunts her famous lineage. She doesn't actively chase fame. She never feels the need to explain herself. She just acts. She writes. She lives her life. Eve Hewson isn't just riding on her father's massive wave. She is bravely walking into the deep end all by herself. And it certainly seems that the tide is turning in her direction. And finally, Katie Cassidy, born into the blinding spotlight, but undoubtedly built for a fight. Some people inherit fame like it's a priceless crown. Katie Cassidy inherited it more like it was a personal challenge. As the daughter of 1970s heartthrob David Cassidy, the pop star, the teen idol and the frontman for the Partridge Family, Katie could have easily just coasted on pure nostalgia. But instead of chasing a career in music, she decided to chase adrenaline. She swapped the world of bubblegum pop for black leather and high-intensity fight sequences. Her world became one of action, raw emotion, deep shadows and bright lights. Katie carved out a name for herself in the gritty universe of the CW's Arrow, where she brought Laurel Lance, who becomes the Black Canary, to life with a fierce and vulnerable performance that few people anticipated. She was so much more than just a pretty face in a superhero costume. She was power in motion, intelligent, deeply wounded, and utterly relentless. But her career path didn't start there. Katie earned her professional stripes the hard way with roles in hit shows like Supernatural, Gossip Girl, Harper's Island, and in horror movies like the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake. She often played young women who screamed, who survived against the odds, and who were eventually transformed by their experiences. Every role was another layer, another scar, another moment that sharpened her unique edge. She's the kind of actress who consistently seems to be one step ahead of what anyone expects from her. Her performances are rarely loud. Instead, they are sharp-cutting and incredibly controlled. She commands the screen with a type of intensity that is impossible to fake. Maybe that presence is just in her blood. Or maybe it comes from having to fight for her own identity in a business where a famous last name is both a blessing and a heavy burden. Off-screen, she remains equally as bold. A vocal champion for mental wellness, Katie's life is a testament to self-reinvention. She doesn't merely portray survivors on screen, she embodies that very spirit in her own life. She has skillfully transformed the heartache from familial rifts and the relentless glare of public judgment into a powerful sense of mission. It was never enough for Katie Cassidy to simply escape her famous father's long shadow. Instead, she forged a completely new outline for herself, one with more defined edges, deeper complexity, and an identity that is unmistakably and powerfully her own. Scott Eastwood, the modern-day maverick who blazed his own trail. When your surname is Eastwood, the pressure isn't just immense, it's the stuff of Hollywood legends. Clint Eastwood is more than a man, he's an American icon, a figure appearing through a cloud of desert dust, the haunting sound just before a showdown begins. So what is it truly like to be the son of such a legend? For Scott Eastwood, the journey involved keeping his head down, working relentlessly and embarking on a long, arduous quest to be recognised for his talent, not just for his lineage on a production list. Upon first impression, Scott is undeniably a striking reflection of Clint during his iconic heyday. He has that chiselled jaw that looks like it could slice through steel and eyes that hold a smouldering intensity. But observe more carefully and a different quality emerges, a deep driving hunger. This wasn't a craving for celebrity, but a fierce, profound need to prove his own worth. He began his career from the ground up, refusing any handouts, trying out for roles using his mother's surname and deliberately keeping his famous connection under wraps. He had no interest in having doors conveniently opened for him. His sole ambition was to break them down on his own terms. And meticulously, one performance at a time, he achieved just that. From harrowing war sagas like Flags of Our Fathers to romantic tearjerkers like The Longest Ride and the blockbuster Suicide Squad, Scott has curated a body of work defined by toughness, genuine emotion and a magnetic on-screen presence. While he certainly carries the legendary Eastwood name, the performances he brings to the screen are entirely and uniquely his own creation. You will never catch him attempting to simply replicate his father's persona. There is no artificial rasp in his delivery, nor does he mimic that signature sun-beaten squint. Scott has absolutely zero desire to be a pale imitation or a phantom from Hollywood's past. He is the kind of man who can absolutely ride a horse into the sunset, but he's equally at home catching a wave or genuinely engaging with fans at a convention with a broad, welcoming smile. He represents a different breed of Hollywood star one who is accessible, authentic, and refreshingly down-to-earth. Away from the cameras, he has a reputation for embracing life to its absolute fullest. You'll find him plunging into the ocean, speeding around a racetrack, or scaling sheer rock faces. That rugged cowboy spirit is definitely present, but it's been updated with a millennial sensibility, less about stoic endurance and more about enthusiastically rolling up your sleeves to get the job done. Scott Eastwood wasn't simply handed a legacy to preserve. He is actively remoulding that legacy with his own unique blend of charisma, physical presence, and an unwavering quiet refusal to be anyone other than himself. Hailie Jade Scott Mathers, a woman whose upbringing was chronicled in song lyrics, fostering a deep-seated resilience. The entire world recognised her name long before she even took her first steps. Her fame didn't stem from glamorous red carpet appearances or the blinding light of paparazzi cameras, but from the brutally honest and uncensored verses of a father grappling with his own inner turmoil. Hailie Jade Scott Mathers didn't enter the world of conventional Hollywood celebrity. She was born directly into the phenomenon of Eminem, a global empire constructed from suffering, masterful rhymes and an all-consuming, relentless love for his daughter. In stark contrast to many children of stars who are constantly displayed for the cameras, Hailie was guarded with a ferocious, unwavering intensity. Her father, Marshall Mathers, did more than just dedicate songs to her. He structured his entire existence to revolve around her safety and well-being. Tracks such as Hailie's song Mockingbird and Beautiful transcended simple music. They were unfiltered public declarations of fatherhood at its most raw and vulnerable. She was his anchor, his very motivation. Consequently, for a significant period, she disappeared from public view, though her retreat was unlike the troubled exits of many other famous children. Hailie didn't fall into a downward spiral. Instead, she channeled her energy into her education, graduating from high school with an impressive 3.9 GPA and later obtaining a psychology degree from Michigan State University. She successfully cultivated an ordinary life for herself, all while navigating a reality that was extraordinarily and consistently unusual. Today, as a young adult in her 20s, Hailie has chosen to step back into the public sphere, but this time it is entirely and completely according to her own rules. She is not presenting herself as just the daughter of a famous rapper, but as a composed and eloquent individual who is carefully constructing her own brand centered on lifestyle, personal fitness, and a more subtle form of influence. Her life is marked by a conspicuous absence of scandal and dramatic headlines, replaced instead by discipline, a clear sense of purpose, and the understated strength that comes from true self-awareness. She's also remarkably open about the two-sided nature of her existence. She remains deeply thankful for the love her father provided while being keenly conscious of the turmoil that fame invariably invites. This perspective lends her a very stable and grounded aura. It's evident that she has no desire to chase the spotlight for its own sake. She has just grown comfortable in its presence. Ultimately, Hailie Jade has no ambition to be just another celebrity. Her goal is simply to be herself. In a society that constantly attempts to categorise people by their family name, choosing authenticity is the most courageous and boldest act of all. Delilah Belle Hamlin, she entered the world under the glare of the spotlight and is now determined to radiate her own unique light. Living in an era where the lines between reality television and actual life are increasingly indistinct, it would have been simple for Delilah Belle Hamlin to be reduced to a mere plot point in a television show as the daughter of the famously outspoken Lisa Rinna, a leading figure on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and the distinguished actor Harry Hamlin. Delilah's childhood unfolded on screen, dressed in designer clothes and subjected to ceaseless public examination. However, beneath the perfectly arranged photographs and the dazzling lights of the red carpet, there is a young woman engaged in a quiet, fierce battle to define her own identity. Her particular brand of beauty is the type that makes you pause instantly while scrolling through your social media feed. With her flowing blonde hair, high cheekbones, and an expression that holds both naivete and wisdom, she stands out. But Delilah refuses to be just another beautiful face among a crowd of look-alike social media influencers. She is charting her own course through the world of fame, one that is characterised by its rawness, its complete honesty, and an astonishing degree of vulnerability. Her career has seen her grace the runway for Dolce & Gabbana in Milan and front campaigns for top-tier brands, making her a familiar and welcome presence at international fashion weeks. Despite these incredible successes, she is incredibly candid about the less glamorous and more challenging side of her life. She openly discusses her battles with anxiety, her ongoing health issues with autoimmune disorders, and the persistent feeling of inadequacy that can haunt a person even when they are constantly in the public eye. Back in 2021, she made the courageous decision to step away from public life following a frightening health crisis connected to prescribed medications. The entire episode was unfiltered, highly publicised and profoundly human. Yet in that very moment of vulnerability, she unveiled a quality more compelling than any illusion of perfection, her profound resilience. Delilah belongs to an emerging class of Hollywood scions who refuse to simply be decorative figures attached to their parents' celebrity. These women demand the substance, the hard work, the authenticity and the influence, and Delilah, with her signature blend of grace and audacity, is crafting her own legend as we watch. She is no longer defined as Lisa Rinna's daughter. She is Delilah Bell, a model, an advocate, and a force who is seizing control of her own story. Then there's Sistine Stallone, a combination of striking beauty, inner fortitude, and a surname that thunders with history. Carrying the Stallone name means bearing a mountain of expectations from birth. It's a name etched into the annals of cinematic lore, synonymous with sweat, raw power, and an unyielding spirit. Yet Sistine Stallone is actively redefining the meaning of that legacy. She's trading the boxing gloves for designer stilettos, but that same unmistakable fire still burns brightly in her gaze. Being the child of the legendary action star Sylvester Stallone, Sistine could have effortlessly coasted on a wave of Tinseltown nostalgia. She chose a different path, making a decisive pivot toward the high fashion industry, a realm where feminine strength is the ultimate currency, and a quiet look can convey everything. In this world, sheer presence outshines witty one-liners, and she arrived armed with all the tenacity of a Rocky training montage. Sistine doesn't merely enter a space, she glides into it, instantly takes command and makes it entirely her own. Her portfolio includes work for giants like Chanel and Dolce & Gabbana, and she has appeared on magazine covers once reserved for the industry's biggest titans. But her appeal extends far beyond her chiselled features or model-esque physique. It's an aura she projects composed, almost unreachable, the kind of stardom that ignites slowly but burns incredibly bright. However, beneath the polished facade of magazine spreads exists a young woman navigating her own identity in the public eye. She has been candid about the immense weight of the Stallone name. It wasn't just about the celebrity status, but the relentless demand for flawlessness that came with it. Demonstrating her ambition, she has also moved into the director's chair, both writing and preparing to helm her own projects. This proves that the gift of narrative is in her blood. It just expresses itself through a completely different medium. Back in 2017, she and her sisters received the title of Miss Golden Globe, a designation that signifies a place among Hollywood's elite. But Sistine refused to let that single honour become her entire identity. She is forging a unique trail far from the shadow of her father's accomplishments, selecting her own arenas and claiming her own victories. She hails from a lineage of cinematic fighters, but Sistine's combat is different. She isn't landing physical blows. She's executing a masterful long-term plan with sophistication, sharp tactics, and a beauty that never diminishes. It simply transforms.